Hey HSM, glad you guys could join us this evening for our home groups. As a quick reminder, I want to let you guys know that next week we're going to be meeting in the Hive for our in-person service event. Really excited about this, guys. Our goal is to use our time and our resources. We're going to pack out 45,000 meals that are going to be distributed to kids in need. Quite honestly, I can't think of a better way for us to be serving and giving as we approach Thanksgiving and the holiday season. And so we're going to need all hands on deck. Please make sure you bring your small group, bring your friends, and bring $10, okay? Your $10 donation is going to provide 50 meals to people who are in need. We're very excited about that coming up next week, so we'll see you guys there. But for those of you guys who know me, you guys know that I am a person who admires excellence, okay? I am fascinated by things that are excellent, ideas that are excellent. One of the things I've been thinking about lately is just, excellent things, things that absolutely change the game for all of society, okay? So a couple examples. In the modern era, Facebook absolutely changed the game, okay? Mark Zuckerberg is a genius. The invention of social media, it completely altered the way that people present themselves and that people interact on a daily basis. Spotify, that's another example. Totally changed the way that people listen to music, right? People don't buy CDs anymore. We got Spotify, we got Apple Music. Netflix totally changed the way that people watch TV. Nobody buys DVDs. Blockbuster's gone. Even cable is becoming a thing of the past, right? Amazon, that's another one. Totally changed the way that people think about shopping, okay? Jeff Bezos was way ahead of the times. He built an empire that has really changed the whole world. But possibly the biggest game changer in all these things is Apple products, okay? If you think of the MacBook, man, they took computers. Computers used to be something that only, tech geniuses use. And so they took this invention that only, hobbyists use, and they made it an indispensable part of every person's life, every person's education, social interactions. It's just a household item, right? Think of the iPod, okay? They took the entire idea of having a music library and records and CDs and Discmans and all that. Now you can fit it into your pocket, right? Think of the iPhone. They took telephones, the entire idea of communication and connectivity. They made it so you could be connected to the entire world in an instant. Steve Jobs, the CEO and founder of Apple, was an absolute genius. He was a super freak, okay? So in his mind, right, the way he thought about the big picture, the way he navigated challenges, time and again, he created technology that changed the world, okay? He's a really smart dude. Right before he died, Steve Jobs gave a commencement speech to his hometown, Stanford University. And it's actually still the most watched commencement speech of all time. In that speech, he makes a great point about what he's observed in life. He says this: "Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make big choices in life." One of the most brilliant minds of the modern era. That was his observation that he made at the end of his life, right? Nobody lives forever, okay? And that fact is one of the most important things to remember when it comes to making big decisions. And really, that's kind of what we've been talking about these past 3 weeks in Ecclesiastes. So Solomon, who's our author, he's already on that train of thought, right? What are the big choices in life, right? What matters at the end of the day? What is the meaning of life? What are you going to do with your life? Now, for y'all as teenagers, the way that you usually ask that question is this. People say, well, who do you want to be when you grow up, right? You guys have been asked that question your whole lives. But for Solomon and for Steve Jobs, they word the question a little bit differently. They ask you like this. They say, who do you want to be when you die? If you haven't noticed, the book of Ecclesiastes has a very negative vibe to it. It's full of this great information, but it has an overall despairing tone. And part of that, I think, is because Solomon, he's an old man, right? He's lived his whole life, his story, it's in the books, and he's looking back on a life fully lived, and he's now asking himself the question, who am I going to be when I die? And you see, at this point, it's too late for him to rewrite the decisions. And for the most part, he's muffed it, right? Maybe by world standards, we could say that he nailed it. But by God's standards, his life was a train wreck, and he knows it. It's too late for him to go back, and he's reflecting on the life that he's lived, and he's understandably very negative and disappointed. And so Solomon, he's writing this to his son Rehoboam. He's trying to implore him. He's trying to warn him. He's trying to say, do it God's way, because doing it any other way is vanity. It's meaningless. It's empty, right? Don't do it like I did it. Trust me, I did it my way. Look at my life, right? I had women, and I had, cars, and I had, more money than I could possibly spend even if I tried. None of that compares to living life with and for the Lord. As much as Solomon is writing to his son, Solomon is also writing to future generations, you and me, right? He's writing this to young people who still have a chance to decide, who do you want to be when you die? And ultimately, Solomon's teaching us that who you want to be when you die is a decision you make when you're young, not when you're old. And so back to Steve Jobs' quote. He says, "Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life." All right? Here's how Solomon says it. Ecclesiastes 7, verses 1 through 4. "A good name is better than fine perfume, and the day of death better than the day of birth. It is better to go to a house of mourning than to a house of feasting, for death is the destiny of every man. The living should take this to heart." Okay, so the decisions you make starting when you're young is going to determine the greeting you receive from the Lord when everything is said and done. One day, you and I, everyone, will stand before the Father, and we're either going to hear him say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant," or we're going to hear him say, "Depart from me, I never knew you." And as you go into your small groups this evening, I want you guys to remember that the storybook of your life has just begun, right? But unlike Solomon, you're just at the start of it, okay? You guys get to decide here and now what type of story you want to write and whose way you're going to choose in the end. And at the very end of the book, Solomon gives us his final concluding counsel. Listen to what he says in chapter 12, verse 13. "Now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." As you come to the end of the road and you take all this into account, at the end of the day, remember this: do it God's way.